Hi guys and welcome back. Today is a very exciting day. I'm finally getting back to some watercolors, but also I am working with Skillshare in this video. So this one is sponsored by Skillshare and I've worked with them before and I love it every time. What they are is they are a website that is dedicated to having educational videos focusing on creative topics, which is exactly what I love. I know that I talk about this a lot, but I personally learn best when I have a classroom type environment where I can get information in a way that's being taught and I can receive it and then I can figure out how to utilize it, especially when there's assignments that are attached to it. I love that. I thrive off of that kind of an environment. So I really personally love Skillshare. I love their videos. I love watching them. They're great because they're taught by tons of different teachers, artists, and they all have a different method of teaching and a different way of explaining it, which makes it really helpful because I can watch several videos on the same or similar topics and then get something completely new out of each one. And each video is subdivided into small, very easily digestible chunks where I can skim through and see exactly what's going to happen in each section and skip to the next one if I'm not interested in that. So it just makes it really easy to jump in, find things that I'm interested in that I never thought I'd be interested in, and then watch these little videos and figure out how to incorporate that into my pieces. So this is definitely a service that I love and I use all the time when I'm feeling especially stuck on ideas. I like to go in and just find a really interesting video and then find a way to utilize it into my next piece. And the exciting thing is today I get to offer you guys a little bit of a deal, which is I can give the first 50 people to take this offer. I can give you guys 35% off of a year subscription. And normally the year subscription is $8.25 per month. So for this, you get 35% off the entire month that you're getting billed for that. So this is a really, really great deal if you're considering thinking about Skillshare. It's a great way to try it out and get a lot of really great content for yourself. And the code for that is Danica3, so Danica 3, and I'll have that written in the description as well so you can see it. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive right into this piece. So with all of my Skillshare videos, I like to go in and watch either a video or a couple videos, study it and learn it, and see what I can do with the piece that I'm working on currently. And this time around, I decided to go back to the basics and find a nice, solid watercolor class. And I have to say, they have so many watercolor classes on Skillshare. I love just typing in the keyword watercolor and see what comes up because there's a lot of really interesting things there. But I found a color mixing class that's really thorough. There's a ton of different segments in it, so it's really easy to look through and find exactly what you're looking for. But the one that I found is called Mix Vibrant Colors, How to Mix Colors Easily. And this is by Sade or Sadie. I don't know how you pronounce it. Sadej. And she's a watercolorist and an illustrator. And I'll have a link to that video in the description as well. But it's very helpful. She has a few classes or a few segments in the class that talks about tubes and understanding it because there is a lot that goes into understanding how paints actually behave. It's really kind of fascinating. It's almost a science on what they do with each other and how they react with paper. And it's just really actually kind of magical. I love learning about that. But she does have a class that goes over that. Well, a subdivision of the class. I keep calling it the wrong thing, but it's really, really helpful. So if you're starting into it or you've never really learned what to look for on tubes, that was a really great refresher. I usually forget how to look at it and how to read it, so that was a good refresher for me as well. But she also goes over mixing colors and how to get really pure, bright, amazing colors, and that's what I want. I want to get as much saturation out of my watercolors as I can because I want to be able to control it. And that's something that can sometimes get out of hand for me a little bit where I mostly it comes from lack of preparation, but I will not be 100% sure where the color is going to end up. So I'll do a lot of glazing, and glazing is where you layer a color on top of another while you're watercoloring, while you make sure that you let the first layer dry completely and then you put the next one down. I have to put that out there. You have to make sure that it's dry before. But that is a great tool in watercolor, but it can also get out of hand and it can make colors muddy if you're not layering the correct colors together, if you're putting too many different colors on top of each other. So I wanted to take a class that just focused on vibrant colors, on mixing, on all the basics that go into what makes watercolors so beautiful. And I wanted to focus this painting on just getting really pure, vibrant colors and not getting them too muddied up when I'm painting it. So that was the goal, and I actually think I was pretty successful, more successful than usual. There are areas where I think I'm really actually pretty happy with that, and some areas that I still can see that I could have got some better work out of it, but all in all, I think that I was a lot more thoughtful about each step that I took and each layer of paint that I was incorporating into it as I added them, so that I made sure that that end result was exactly what I wanted. One area that I actually really enjoyed painting was the skin. I usually love painting skin. I love painting it and adding little like blushes and little injuries, just shadows. I love adding things like that, and it's just really fun to build up the layers on top of each other. And for this one, I had a little bit of a different method for when I was mixing the colors than I usually do. So usually I'll have like a shadow color and then like a blush color, or just depending on what exactly the piece is in the different areas. But for this one, I mixed one basic main local color for this one, where it was kind of a peachy one. It tipped a little bit more on the pinky side for this, and I added in the basic blocked in shadows for that with that color. And then as I let that dry and added more and more layers, I just added just a tiny bit more of quinacridone violet, which by the way is a really great shadow pigment. It's actually one of my favorite paints ever, but I just added just a tiny touch of it into that base layer each time I added a new shadow layer, and I blended it out really smoothly. And each time I did that, it was able to create more and more of this really smooth blended out look, which is something that I don't always strive for, but it's not because it's a look that I don't want. It's usually because I'm being too lazy to even think about that. So this time I gave myself a lot more time to just build that up and blend it out, and it was just really enjoyable of a process to be a lot more in control of it. And the final result was something that I could see it coming from a mile away. I could see where it was going. I could see where the shadows were being built up, and it just was really nice to work that way. And again, that class really just helped me reset some of the things that I blaze past, or I have kind of a shorthand for, because I've worked a certain way so much that I no longer think about what the steps I'm taking are anymore. So that was just really helpful to remember that that's not necessarily the best way. It's just the way that I'm habitually making myself work. And I do think that's a little bit of another negative information or insight into the way that I work that I think I learned from this piece. I spent a lot more time on each step of this piece because I forced myself to think through the decisions that I was making and the choices that I was choosing and why was I doing that. And that's something that I think I've fallen into a little bit of a rhythm for. And I know that I've talked about this before, but the fact that I have a certain deadline that I have to meet every time I do a piece, I think it's definitely affecting the speed that I try to finish pieces, and that absolutely affects the quality that I have. And I feel like that's a little bit of a mistake, because I know that I have more time to put into these pieces. I'm just stuck in a rut of feeling like I have to rush through them. So by making myself be more thoughtful about each step and think through everything that initially I know can be a little bit better, it helps overall the whole piece be better. When every single step that I'm like, no, that's not quite right, I'm going to fix it, it absolutely shows. A big example for that is the sketch layer itself. Oftentimes when I do the sketch, I won't spend as much time fixing mistakes as I should. I'll move on to the inking phase. But I always remember those things that I wish could have been better. And there's always something that when I look at it, I know that it could be better, or I know something's just a little bit off. And usually I just try to ignore that and move on because I need to get the piece done, which clearly is very detrimental for the quality of the whole piece. One example of that on this one is the initial hand that I had sketched. And I did take reference of myself for all of anything that I used for this. But the first hand that I had, it just looked a little odd. It didn't look quite natural enough for how she'd actually be posed. Even though I physically could do it, it just didn't have the flow that I wanted. And initially I was ready to just move on and let that be what it was, but I knew that I could do better, and I knew that I would always look at that hand and be less happy with it. So I spent way more time redrawing that hand, retaking reference photos so that I could get a better pose. And ultimately I'm much happier with that because I did take that extra time. And that along goes with pretty much anything in this piece. I spent more time on the color comps. I spent more time painting it. I spent more time making sure that I got the details correct. Like this thread, I took the time to make sure that it was the same width throughout. And those are the little things that I 100% control, but I breeze past without thinking about them and without putting in the time to make sure that the craftsmanship is up there. And because I took more time on a lot of these smaller details, I know that the final result really does show that. It reflects a little bit more care. And when you look at it, a lot of details that I'm normally a little bit sloppier with, it really does hold up in the final result. And again, that just comes back also to the color choices and the color layers that I did. I think that it was just really helpful to be able to remember how to think through things and how to take the right steps in the right time. But I do have to say, I'm very happy with the overall process for this one and the craftsmanship that I had for it, because I do think that I pushed myself a little bit more there. But I don't think it's a perfect piece. There are always things to get better at. And that's exciting. And that's okay to look at a piece and be able to look at it and think, okay, these are all really great things. I'm happy that I did it this way. But these are also things that I can do better and I could have improved on. And for me, there are a few details that I didn't give as much attention to, like the border around the tear in her chest. I didn't pay as much attention to that when I was painting, and because of it, it got kind of messed up, and it was really thin to begin with, so that detail just got a little bit lost and muddied up. And had I been more cautious about that for all of the steps, it would have read better. So I definitely have areas like that where I can look at it and I think, okay, that was a little bit of a misstep. I could have done better on that. But overall, I do think that I improved quite a bit on the thought process, at least, that I put into the piece. And that is it for today. I do want to thank Skillshare again for sponsoring this video. I love their product. I love the website. It is amazing. But again, a reminder, that deal is 35% off for a 1-year subscription, which is a great deal, but that is for only the first 50 people. So you want to jump on that if you're thinking about it. And the code is Danica, Danica 3. I'll have that listed down in the description as well. And I will have a link to the original painting from today. So if you'd like to own this, or if you'd like to own prints of her, I do have those available as well. And I do want to give a huge thank you to anyone who does support me through that shop. It means the world to me. It really does help me to be able to put these videos out there for you guys. So a big, huge thank you for all of you. And that is about it for today. I do post every Wednesdays and Saturdays, so stay tuned for more videos, and I'll see you guys at my next one. Thanks for watching.